heard slightly in advance of the announcement that it was coming back, and spent a kind of week in a puddle of sweat, anxiety, thinking if they don't ask me, I'll just die. But I did. The biggest challenge was the whole notion of how to create a living, breathing, new television series rather than a kind of faithful recreation of the past. I just immediately felt happy and confident about doing a Victorian ghost story, fake seances and undertakers, and it's just my kind of thing, I'm afraid. Always has been. It's kind of like the Doctor Who story I've been waiting to write since I was 4. There's some brilliant detail which I had in it, which didn't really survive, but I really wanted to. The whole fakery stuff. I love the spirit cabinets and the ectoplasm. What I find extraordinary about it is the same parlour tricks are being played now on the telly, and people still fall for them. Does anybody get really narked when somebody says something? And someone puts their hand on it, yeah. And they go out and say, it was amazing. You knew I had a dog, you knew I had a grandma and she died. This thing they used to do, they just turn the gas down, and the medium would have a glove on their foot. And they'd everywhere would be holding hands, and they'd just go like that over the table. And people would see you go, oh my God! And they'd touch the hand and it was cold because it was a glove, painted with luminous paint and all that stuff. But it survived in some of Dickens' skepticism about luminous tambourines and squeeze boxes. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I just love all that detail. Gwyneth, the parlour maid, the only servant as she eventually turned out, in the first draft, she died halfway through. After I delivered the first draft, everyone just loved Gwyneth and they wanted more of her, and she became much more the focus of it. It's fascinating. I'm just thinking about that the other day, that how different it can be from first draft to last draft, You always think, well, that's great, that's the one. I think, yeah, it's quite a long way to go now. It's not a bad thing to say that Simon Callow was on everybody's lips, like that. But I guess we just thought he never did it. Especially being such a kind of Dickens scholar, you might think of it as sort of taking the rise, but then the delightful thing was how complimentary he was about the script in terms of its sort of sincere approach to a rounded Dickens, especially as he is, and it's late in his life when he was a rather weary and disappointed man, who then kind of rediscovers his love of life through this adventure with TV's Doctor Who. I watched my episode without effects just before Christmas as a little Christmas present. I was locked in a dark room in the centre house with an armed guard, practically. But I cried my eyes out, of course. I think I'd be very proud to think that was finally my contribution to Doctor Who. Having said that, I'd like to write with a 17, at least.